Yep.
We all came up from the south end. The south end with anything below Green Street, Fair Oaks, that whole section right there was all where we were raised up in the 50s. We all went to Garfield Elementary, the Lees, the Loves, the Lacey's, the Davises, the Youngbloods, the Youngers. Everybody was down there, all blacks. Because in the 50s and 60s, they would not sell the blacks up in Pasadena. So they still had, the Mexicans hadn't really got here yet. They still had, the white people had Asian gardeners. Everybody in Altadena, Pasadena, the gardeners were Asian. The Mexicans hadn't really touched in like that. So then the city would hire you too, but only for sanitation. There's no other optional jobs that are getting to any kind of anything else. You would work, you know, as a sanitation worker only for blacks and Mexicans. So, and then in the 60s, late 60s, then we start moving up out of this area. They would sell the blacks. But as far as
I mean, like, what year was that though when they started selling the blacks?
In the early 60s. 65, 62, 61.
Is that like below Colorado? Or
yeah, you would come up. We came up further. We came up further towards Walnut in that area, and then we came up in this section where all the Callums own a lot of the properties around here. So that was in the mid 60s. Everybody came from Arkansas, Alabama, you know, places like that, Monrovia. They migrated. Everybody migrated here from Pasadena because, like I said, the only blacks and Mexicans in the 50s and early 60s would be on the south end, and it was very segregated. So like if you got caught up here, they would question, you know, what are you doing here? So one day, about 15 of us, we were going up to Altadena, Low Mountain, to the mountains, to the waterfall. So we got up towards Woodbury, and the sheriff pulled us over, and I'm the littlest one. I couldn't have been no more than 7 years old in the second grade. And the police asked, where are you guys going? And I walked up to all of them in the front. I said, my mama said we don't have to say nothing to white folks. And the sheriff told me, he said, what did you say? And I looked at him straight-eyed. I said, my mama said we don't have to say nothing to white people. And my brother, he got mad at me. He slapped me. He said, man, I told you, man, stop. I said, mama said it, though, man. You know mama said that. That's how we grew up. You know, we stayed away from white folks, and they stayed away from us, you know. So, and then as we moved up further, then the Mexicans came in, and, you know, like I said, in the late 60s, property was, you know, if whoever had the money, and the houses were only like, you know, at you know, 10, 12,000. So a lot of people came from south, and they bought property around here, and then we moved up further towards Altadena, and because in the 60s, all that property in Altadena was horse property. So if they did see you up there, did wonder, you know, you're out of place. What are you doing here? So that's what happened to me. I seen growing up. Very racial, very balanced city, but only for them. Everything, the land that we had down on the south end, that property was, they never finished the freeway, but they took our home. They took a lot of people's home. We had 3-story houses back down over there. So that's how I grew up, very poor. We were also poor, but really we actually didn't even know we were poor. So that's how it was. When you poor people, you know you're poor, but you don't realize it. Because Pasadena, Altadena was full of fruit trees. Everything died off. But you could just reach over and get some plums, some apricots, or whatever you want. People didn't mind you reaching in their yard grabbing fruit.
That was like the good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. Fruit was free. Everybody had fruit out of their yard, at least 5 or 6 different citrus, orange, apples, grapevines everywhere. You hit the railroad tracks, and there's all kinds of berry vines and stuff. You can just go down the railroad tracks and peel them off on the south end. So that's when we used to go to Garfield Elementary. So everybody was confined to that school, and then we moved up further to Lincoln Elementary, and that's as we migrated further up. And then in the 60s, late 70s, early 70s, we were up at Washington. So we worked our way up to, you know, from Garfield Elementary to Lincoln, where it was segregated, and then we moved up to Washington Junior High. So now we're already in Altadena in the mid 60s. We're already there. We're everywhere because, like, if you did see a black in Altadena in the 50s and 60s, they had to they had to look white for them to even purchase. Because they'll tell you, well, that house has been sold, or they just didn't sell to you. But
so basically, they didn't sell to blacks at that time.
No, they didn't sell to blacks at that time. Actually, they didn't want black people up there. But like I said, there were black people up there, but they looked white. Because it was a gardener up there and took care of a lot of properties up there. The guy, he was at the top of the mountain, and I used to admire him. I said, man, how'd you get a palace like this? It's old. And he said, well, yeah, he said, you see this street, out Lake Street? I walk up and down that all the way up to Lomouth every day to work and back. I said, you walk? He said, yeah. I had enough to buy the house, and they thought I was white, so I bought it. I said, because you're at the top of the hill there. And then he said, that's how he got it. The only way he got it, because he did look white to me, but his daughter, she, when I met her, you could see the resemblance, and she'd be considered black, but he passed as being a white person. So, but when I grew up here in Pasadena, this city was a very powerful city. Kids grew up playing baseball thinking they were Jackie Robinson, because it was a breeding camp for all-stars. So then we got into track. Track was the thing then football. So this place is still a breeding camp for champions.
Like around that time though, as you was growing up, who was like some of the athletes you knew of?
The Fullers, the Gitways, there's so many, the young bloods, the Lees, everybody. Listen, when you came out of your house, after school, you came to get down. Baseball, or you're going to play some football. We would play different neighborhoods. The whole city would play at Lincoln School in the early, in the 60s, 65, 66. The whole league, McAllister, everybody, all these famous cats, we all used to play at Lincoln School on Saturdays and Sundays. That's how tough it was. And believe me, you had to be tough to go down there and play at Lincoln. So we got up to Washington, we had a lot of games up there, but I mean, every family in this Pasadena, I could name off like hundreds and thousands of them. They all came out to play sports. So it was a competition out of every family. So and then we got it like this, where we would play different neighborhoods. We would play the boys up here on El Sereno. We meet them at Manzanita Park. We play different neighborhoods. We play the people over here on Marengo, that neighborhood. They would bring their boys, and this is where the competition was. And as I grew up, and I'm 73, so I know the game. The game was, hey, you know what? There's nothing else to do but play sports.
But when did did sports like bring us together, or?
Yeah, sports brought us together closer, but like the few Mexican families that grew up on the south end, they consider Mexi black. Because we know that's how we are. There's no color lines between me. You can't tell if you talk to me over the phone. I sound like I'm a brother to you, because that's how I grew up.